The desperate signal the colony of Vaynor trembled under fire, its skies burning red as enemy warships rained destruction from above. Buildings cracked open, smoke covered the air, and the ground shook like a wounded beast. The Empire's fleet had arrived merciless, overwhelming, unstoppable. On the surface, civilians screamed and ran for safety that did not exist. Alien mothers clutched their children. Soldiers tried to fight back with weak weapons, but their defenses shattered in hours high above. In the command bunker deep inside the colony's last surviving tower, Governor Lareth stood with shaking hands. His eyes moved over the holomap, red lights everywhere. Enemy icons filled the skies. The colony's fleet was gone, burned to nothing in the first strike. One officer cried out, "Governor, the Empire has surrounded the planet. No reinforcements can reach us." Another voice followed, weaker, broken. "No one dares fight them. We are finished." The governor slammed his hand on the console. His people were dying. His planet was lost. He had one option left in active desperation. He turned to his communications officer. "Prepare the beacon," he ordered, his voice trembling. The officer froze. "You mean that beacon?" Lareth nodded. His throat felt dry. The beacon was forbidden, hidden for centuries. It was linked to an old human frequency primitive, unstable, barely used in the galaxy anymore. The Council had warned never to use it. Never call the Deathworlders. But what choice did he have? "Governor," one elder protested, fear heavy in her voice, "if they come, they will not only fight the Empire, they will change everything. The galaxy still remembers the old wars." Lareth's hands shook. "Better the galaxy change than my people be erased." The officer's fingers danced across the controls. With one last breath, he pressed the signal dot far beyond the colony. Across void and stars, a pulse of light burst outward. An ancient frequency, rough and raw, screamed into the blackness. "SOS, SOS, this is Vaynor Colony. We are under attack. Please, help us." The signal repeated again and again, echoing across the void. Silence followed in the bunker. The officers looked at one another with hopeless eyes. No one believed an answer would come. "Humans are Deathworlders," one whispered. "They don't care for us. They care only for war." Another muttered bitterly, "If they come, they'll bring fire. For everyone, even us." But then hours later, something strange happened. On the holomap, in the quiet corner of the galaxy, a tiny blue icon flickered to life. A fleet signature, unknown but powerful. The officers leaned forward, breath caught in their throats. More blue icons appeared. 1, 2, then a dozen, then hundreds. "Impossible," the officer gasped. They heard us." The bunker filled with silence. Governor Lareth stared at the growing wave of signals. They were moving fast. Very fast. "Faster than any known fleet," they answered, Lareth whispered, his voice breaking. "The Deathworlders answered." Above the planet, the Empire's warships slowed, detecting something on their long-range scanners. Their commanders sneered, confident no one would challenge them, but the scanners kept blinking. The signals grew stronger, closer, colder. Enemy captain barked, "Identify the fleet." The computer replied in a flat voice, "Origin, Sol System, Classification, Human." The captain's blood ran cold in the dark of space. The humans were coming, and they were not sending diplomats. They were sending the Deathworld fleet. Asterisk. The Council's mockery, the Galactic Council, met inside its shining hall, a structure of silver spires and crystal walls floating above the planet Arvales. Delegates from hundreds of species filled the chamber, their voices rising in panic. News of Vaynor Colony's desperate SOS had spread, carried on the networks faster than light. The Empire strikes again. One delegate hissed, her scales flashing yellow with fear. They will not stop until every free world bows. Another delegate shouted back, "And what do you expect us to do? Their fleets outnumber ours." Their weapons cut through shields as if they were air. The chamber filled with angry, hopeless noise. Species that had once sworn unity now argued like frightened children. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to surrender, and most simply wanted to remain silent dot at the center. High Chancellor Drenner struck his staff against the floor. The hall fell quiet. His 4 eyes burned with irritation. "Enough," he declared. "We will not waste soldiers for hopeless colonies. Vaynor is lost." Murmurs of agreement spread. Many nodded, their faces pale. None wished to challenge the Empire. But then a trembling aide stepped forward with a datapad. His voice was small, but his words hit like thunder. "High Chancellor, the Vaynor governor has sent the signal." The chamber froze. "The signal?" Drenner's voice. Sharpened dot the aide swallowed. "Yes, the Deathworlder frequency." Gasps echoed. A wave of fear spread through the delegates. Some whispered prayers. Others clenched their claws and tendrils in disgust. One elder with silver skin shook her head. "Fools! Calling them is madness. Do you not remember what humans are? Do you not recall what they bring? They are unstable." Another spat. "Savages who turned their own planet into a war world. Do you want that fury loose again?" "They will never come," someone said quickly, almost begging. "They care nothing for us. They hide on their death planet, tearing themselves apart." But the aide raised the datapad again. His voice trembled. "We have confirmation. A fleet has moved from Sol. Hundreds of ships, all human." The council chamber shook with outrage and fear. Impossible. They would never risk war with the Empire. This is a bluff. The High Chancellor lifted his staff again, silencing the uproar. His voice dripped with contempt. "Even if the Deathworlders move, they cannot win. The Empire is vast, endless. Humanity will only throw itself into the fire and burn. Good, let them burn." Laughter erupted from a cluster of delegates, sharp, mocking, cruel. "Deathworlders think they are strong, but they are insects compared to the Empire. They will be crushed in their first battle. They are too primitive, too reckless." But in the shadows of the chamber, not all shared the laughter. A few whispered to each other, their eyes dark with memory. "They forget," one muttered softly, "that humans are not like us. They do not fight like us. They do not fear like us." Another replied, voice low, "Pray they fail quickly. If they win, the galaxy itself will change." High above, the council's grand view screen flickered to life dot. It showed the star map of the galaxy. Red icons. The Empire's fleets burned like a spreading fire. But from the edge of the map, a new color emerged. Blue. Small at first, then growing. Wave after wave. The human fleet. The chamber went silent, all eyes fixed on the spreading blue tide. The Chancellor gripped his staff tighter. He had mocked, he had laughed, but for the first time, his eyes showed fear. "They dare." He whispered dot at that very moment. Across the void, a human admiral stood aboard his flagship, watching the stars. His voice was calm, steady, like stone. "They called for help," he said to his officers. "And we answered. Now we show the galaxy why they should never mock Deathworlders." The Deathworld fleet awakens far from the chatter of the council. In the burning skies of Vaynor, space itself trembled. Deep within the Sol system, a silent alarm reached the hidden heart of humanity's power. Earth was quiet on the surface oceans. Calm, cities glowing, children laughing. But in orbit, steel giants slept. For decades, they had waited in silence. Only whispers of their existence reaching the galaxy. Now, the signal had come. In the darkness above Earth, the first Titan stirred. A massive supercarrier, kilometers long, powered its engines. Its hull bore scars from ancient wars, yet its weapons glowed with deadly light. One by one, more shadows moved. Destroyers slid from hidden docks beneath the moon. Cruisers broke free from Mars shipyards, bristling with railguns and missile bays. Massive carriers unfolded like beasts stretching after slumber. A Deathworld fleet was awakening. Inside the flagship Iron Will, Admiral Saren stood before the command deck. His face was calm, unreadable, his eyes sharp as cold steel. Officers waited in silence, watching him, feeling the weight of history on his words. "The call has come," Saren said softly. His voice carried through the ship like thunder. "Vaynor." Cries for help. The Council turned away. The Empire expects silence. But humanity? He paused, gaze turning to the starfield ahead. Humanity answers. The crew erupted, their voices fierce, united. For Earth, for the fleet. Engines ignited. The great war machines surged forward, their thrusters glowing brighter than suns. From Earth, Mars, and the black edges of the asteroid belt, ships poured into formation until the sky itself seemed filled with fire. Other civilizations had fleets built for defense, designed for control, for intimidation. Humanity's fleet was built for survival. Every ship was a predator. Every weapon tested against extinction. In the officer's pit, a young lieutenant whispered in awe, "It's not a fleet. It's a storm." And indeed, as they gathered, it looked like a storm made of steel and fury. Across the galaxy, watchers trembled. Spies of the Empire saw the movement and rushed to send warnings. Messages shot across subspace. The Deathworlders are moving. The Deathworlders are coming. In secret corners, alien captains whispered prayers. Some begged their gods to stop humanity. Others begged them to help. But in the Empire's war room, generals only laughed. "They are reckless beasts." One said, "They cannot stand against us. Let them come. We will show them what true power is." Yet even as they laughed, their scanners trembled. The readings made no sense. Human ships moved faster than expected. Their engines carried strange signatures. Their weapons radiated energy levels that had no name in the Empire's language, and they kept coming. More and more, wave after wave. In the flagship's war deck, Admiral Saren gave the order. "Set course for Vaynor. We will not crawl. We will not wait. We strike." The Deathworld fleet jumped. Space itself seemed to rip apart as hundreds of human warships tore through the void, leaving burning trails of light behind them. On Vaynor, the sky shook as the first human signature appeared. A massive blue icon blinked onto the Defender's map, and another, then 10 more. Governor Lareth stood frozen, staring at the holomap. His voice cracked as he whispered, "They're here." Civilians lifted their heads from the rubble, eyes wide as new stars burned in the sky. The Deathworld fleet had arrived. Asterisk. First clash in the void. The black of space near Vaynor was silent for a moment, a calm before the storm. Then the void lit up with fire. The Empire's fleet hung above the colony like a crown of knives, hundreds of warships, shields glowing, weapons armed. Their commanders laughed at the reports. "Humans?" one captain sneered. "Primitive. Savages from a cursed world. Let them come. Their bones will float among the stars." But then the scanners screamed. Hundreds of blue signatures burst from hyperspace. The Deathworld fleet emerged like predators slipping from the dark. Carriers unfolded wings of fighters, cruisers locked railguns, destroyers spread into attack. Lines. Each ship carried scars, but each scar was a warning. We survived worse. Admiral Saren's voice cut across the fleet. Calm, cold, deadly. Mark targets. Fire at will. The void exploded. Human railguns roared first, their slugs tearing through the darkness at impossible speed. One Imperial cruiser took the first shot. Its shield shimmered, cracked, and then shattered like glass. The slug punched through the hull, splitting the ship in two. The Empire fleet blinked in shock. Their shields had been unbreakable against every other species. Against humans, they were nothing. Return fire. An Imperial commander screamed. Green plasma lances streaked across space, smashing into human destroyers. One ship flared, its armor boiling, but it did not fall. It turned, engines burning, and launched a swarm of missiles that ripped 3 enemy frigates apart. Fighters screamed from human carriers, small, agile craft, darting like hornets. They weaved through plasma fire, unloading torpedoes at close range. Imperial ships tried to swat them down, but they moved too fast, too unpredictable. The Council had laughed at humanity. The Empire had mocked them. But in battle, the truth was clear. Humans fought like no one else. They fought like survivors. On the surface of Vaynor, civilians looked to the skies. For the first time since the siege began, the red fire of the Empire was broken by flashes of blue. They saw human ships burning. Yes, but they also saw Imperial ships exploding, one after another, torn apart by Deathworld fury. A Vaynor child pointed upward and whispered, "They came." In the Imperial flagship, panic spread. Officers shouted over each other as the battle shifted. Their fleet was larger, their weapons stronger, but the humans fought with a madness they could not predict. "Admiral," one officer cried, "they're not retreating. Even damaged ships keep fighting." The Imperial Admiral gritted his teeth. "Monsters," he hissed. "A fight as if death is nothing." On the Iron Will, Admiral Saren stood steady as explosions lit the void around him. His eyes never wavered. "Press forward," he ordered. "No mercy. Break their line." And the Deathworld fleet obeyed. Destroyers rammed enemy cruisers head-on, tearing through hulls. Fighters sacrificed themselves to punch holes in capital ships. Marines prepared boarding pods, their steel claws locking for launch. The Galaxy had always whispered that humans were dangerous, that they were wild, that they were Deathworlders. Now, the Galaxy was seeing why. The first Imperial line shattered. Ships burned, debris floated, and the survivors pulled back in shock. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had been forced to retreat. Asterisk. The ground awakens. The skies of Vaynor burned with falling wreckage. Pieces of broken Imperial warships rained down like meteors, lighting the night with fire. The people below lifted their heads, not in fear this time, but in hope. Then, the ground shook. Dropships. Hundreds of them, black and armored, thundered through the clouds. They carried no banners, no bright colors, only the insignia of Earth. Etched in steel, a clawed hand gripping a star. The Deathworld Marines had arrived. Governor Lareth stood on the colony's ruined balcony as the first ships landed. His guards flinched, expecting monsters to step out. The Galaxy had always painted humans as nightmarish creatures of war and rage, and in truth, the sight of them did nothing to ease that fear. The ramps dropped, and armored giants stormed out. Their exosuits were thick, scarred, painted with the marks of past battles. Each Marine carried a weapon longer than most aliens were tall. Their boots struck the ground like thunder. The lead Marine pulled off his helmet. His face was scarred, his eyes cold, but when he saw the terrified civilians, he knelt. Slowly, he reached out and lifted a crying alien child into his arms. His voice was steady, deep. "You're safe now." The crowd gasped. Some wept. For the first time in weeks, they felt something stronger than fear-hope. But not all shared it. From the ruins, Imperial soldiers charged, weapons blazing. Plasma bolts ripped through the air, striking walls and shattering stone. The crowd screamed. The humans did not flinch. The Marines moved as one, forming a wall of steel. Shields locked, weapons fired. Railgun bursts ripped through the attackers, each shot dropping a soldier where he stood. One Marine roared, voice echoing like thunder, "Push forward." They surged into the streets, clearing enemy positions block by block. No hesitation, no retreat. Even when struck, they kept moving, dragging their wounded brothers along and firing back with fury. Vaynar's soldiers watched in awe. Where there? Defense had collapsed in hours. The humans advanced like an unstoppable tide. Governor Lareth whispered to his aide, "They fight as if the world itself cannot kill them." The aide answered in a trembling voice, "That is why the galaxy calls them Deathworlders." On one shattered street, a squad of humans found a group of civilians trapped under rubble. Without a word, they lifted entire slabs of stone with their exosuits, pulling survivors free. A mother cried as a Marine carried her daughter to safety. "You're safe," he repeated. "We don't leave anyone behind." The word spread. Like fire, the people of Vayner began to cheer. For the first time, they believed they would live to see another dawn. But not all battles were won. Asterisk. Farther in the city, the Empire unleashed its war beast-stouring creatures bred for terror. Armored hides and claws sharp enough to tear through steel. The Vayner soldiers fell back in horror. Nothing can kill those things. They cried. The humans did not retreat. A single Marine stepped forward, his heavy weapon locking into place. He aimed, fired, and the rail slug punched straight through the beast's skull. It collapsed in a heap of blood and dust. The Marine's voice echoed. "Through comes. Next target." The beasts roared, but the Marines met them head-on. It was not a battle. It was a slaughter. By the time the sun rose, the colony streets were clear. The Empire's banners had been torn down, their soldiers crushed, their beasts lying dead in the dirt. And at the center of it all stood the human scarred, battered, bloodied, but unbroken. The people of Vayner gathered around them. Some bowed, some wept, some whispered in awe. "They came for us," one elder said. When no one else would, the Deathworlders came. Ending hook for Part 5. The ground belonged to humans now. But in the stars above, the war had only just begun, and the Empire would not forgive this humiliation. Asterisk, fire across the stars. The colony of Vayner was safe, but the war was far from over. Above its skies, the Deathworld fleet formed into sharp formation once more. Their engines glowed like angry suns, their weapons armed, their hulls scarred but proud. Admiral Saren stood at the command deck of the Iron Will. The colony was behind them, free at last, but he did not order retreat. He did not order rest. His eyes were locked on the wider star map, where red symbols of the Empire spread like a plague. "They think this ends here," Saren said, his voice cold as steel. "They believe humanity will save one world and then crawl back into silence. They are wrong." He raised his hand. "Set course. Strike at their heart." The order spread across the fleet. The engines thundered, and the humans leapt once more. Into the void. In the Empire's border worlds, alarms screamed. Stations lit up with fear as human ships emerged from hyperspace, one system after another. At Kirel, an Imperial fortress world, soldiers watched in horror as the sky filled with human cruisers. The defenders boasted of their shield walls, but human railguns shredded them in minutes. The fortress burned. At Varnis, a mining world feeding the Empire's war machine, the people looked up and saw the Deathworld fleet descend. Marines stormed the factories, freeing enslaved workers and burning the Empire's supply lines. Everywhere the humans struck, fire followed. The galaxy watched in shock. The Empire had ruled for centuries, unchallenged, unbroken. But now, system after system fell. And the victors were not the mighty council fleets. They were not the proud warrior races. It was humanity. The savages, the Deathworlders. In secret chambers, the council panicked. Delegates whispered furiously. They are reckless. If they keep pushing, the Empire will strike back with everything. They are reshaping the galaxy itself. No balance will remain. Perhaps this is what the galaxy needed. All along. But while the council trembled, the common people of many worlds whispered a different truth. The humans fight for more than themselves. For the first time, entire species saw a chance at freedom. On the battlefield, Imperial admirals seethed with fury. Reports poured in of shattered fleets, burning outposts, humiliated commanders. They fight like demons, one officer spat. They do not know fear. Even their wounded refuse to fall. Another commander slammed his fists on the table. This is not war. This is vengeance. But vengeance could not be stopped. In the void of the Yara system, the largest clash erupted yet. Hundreds of Imperial ships met the Deathworld fleet head-on. Plasma beams tore through the dark. Missiles streaked like falling stars. In the middle of the chaos, the Iron Will cut forward, railguns pounding, its hull glowing red-hot from fire. Press! Saren shouted. Break them! A swarm of human fighters dove straight into the Imperial line, sacrificing themselves to open a path. Behind them, destroyers surged in, unloading volleys that tore the enemy apart. By the end of the battle, the Yara system was silent. Wreckage floated, thousands of ships reduced to dust. And still, the human fleet moved forward. Governor Lareth, watching reports from Vaynor, could hardly breathe. His people had been saved, yes, but what he saw now was greater. They are not just saving us, he whispered. They are reshaping the stars. The Empire's banners began to fall one by one. Colonies long enslaved rose in rebellion, emboldened by human strikes. The legend of the Deathworlders spread, whispered in markets, in homes, in council halls. They came when no one else would. They fight not only for themselves, but for all of us. They are unstoppable. By the time the 6th week of war ended, the map of the galaxy had changed. Red symbols of the Empire burned out, replaced by the blue of human conquest. And yet, Admiral Saren knew this was not victory. Not yet. His eyes were locked on a single star deep in enemy space. The Imperial capital. They will not stop, he said quietly. So neither will we. A debt written in blood. The Imperial capital of Theraxis was a jewel in the void, a city world wrapped in golden rings and guarded by the largest fleet ever built. For centuries, it had stood untouchable, the heart of power and fear. Now it waited. For the storm. Inside the command palace, the Imperial High Lord sat on a throne of obsidian, surrounded by trembling officers. Reports filled the air like smoke. Dozens of worlds lost. Entire fleets destroyed. Rebellion spreading. The High Lord's voice cut through their panic. Cold, bitter. And bring them to me. Bring the Deathworlders. Here, let this be their grave. And the Deathworlders came. The sky above Theraxis tore apart as the human fleet arrived. Thousands of ships, scarred and battered but unbroken, poured into orbit. Their engines burned blue. Their weapons glowed red-hot. A void itself seemed to shake with their fury. From the Iron Will, Admiral Saren gave his last order. His voice was calm, steady, but carried the weight of every fallen world. This war ends today. The final battle began. The Empire unleashed its full fury. Planetary cannons spat fire across the void. Dreadnoughts the size of cities advanced, their shields blazing. Squadrons of fighters screamed into the dark. The humans did not flinch. Railguns thundered, missiles streaked, carriers opened like beasts unleashing their swarms. Destroyers rammed into enemy lines, tearing ships apart even as they burned. Boarding pods slammed into dreadnoughts, and Deathworld Marines spilled inside like a flood of steel dot. It was not battle. It was judgment. On the surface of Theraxis, citizens stared upward as the heavens burned. For the first time in centuries, the Empire's banner shook. One child whispered, "The sky is bleeding." Another answered, "No, the sky is screaming with freedom." Inside the palace, the High Lord raged as alarms blared. The walls trembled. His guards fled. At last, the doors burst open. Marines stormed in, weapons raised, armor scorched but unyielding. The High Lord spat, "Savages? You cannot rule the galaxy." The lead Marine stepped forward. His voice was cold as stone. "We don't rule. We answer." And then the Empire's throne fell. Hours later, silence returned to the void. Smoke and wreckage drifted above Theraxis. The proud Imperial fleet reduced to broken steel dot in the council chambers far away. Delegates sat frozen as the news arrived. The Empire, the eternal, the unstoppable, was gone dot by the hands of humanity. Governor Lareth stood once more before his people. His eyes filled with tears as he addressed them. "They called for help," he said softly. "No one else came. But the Deathworlders, they answered. And they gave their blood for us." The crowd erupted in cheers. Some shouted the names of fallen Marines. Some cried. Some whispered prayers of thanks. But all remembered one truth. Humanity had not saved just a colony. They had changed the galaxy. Historians would write of this day for centuries. They would call it the Deathworlder War, the fall of the Empire, the rebirth of freedom. But among the people, the story was simpler. When we were dying, we called, and humanity answered.